Welcome to SDSU-Tube. We are here at the SJAC, Sanford Jackrabbit Athletic Complex. It's a little chilly in here, but nice to be inside. The Jackrabbits will actually practice in here coming up this week, partly because of the weather, partly because of the time change.
Partly because of convenience.
And it's going to be dark out. Yes.
Yeah, it's going to be nice. Stig has said it's nicer on the joints, so might as well considering all the injuries they have.
Yeah, the turf is beautiful. The Jackrabbits are certainly banged up across the board at about every position, but one guy that is back, Austin Sumner, comes back against North Dakota State 8 weeks after his injury in the season opener at Missouri. And you were up in North Dakota in Fargo at the Dome. Was it a surprise that he came out, and was everybody a little shocked that Sumner started this football game?
I think so. There were sort of rumblings a little bit, probably about 2 hours, an hour before the game, that Sumner might actually be starting. Remember last week, Stig had said 5% chance, and that was Austin's 5% chance, so maybe Stig was playing a little coy. But either way, he apparently made the announcement to the team on Friday, and I guess by what he told us, they erupted. They were all on board. They gave him an extra boost of energy. At least that's what Stig claimed. And, I mean, they did come out with a little extra pep, I would say. Sumner had to adjust a little bit. He even admitted in the post-game press conference that he wasn't seeing things all that well in the first half. It took him about a half to get adjusted, but as far as moving around, I actually thought he moved around decently. I mean, he got sacked 4 times, but it didn't appear that he was hobbling out of the pocket. He stood in there, withstood some pressure, and made some throws. So a successful return? Not necessarily, but it wasn't a complete abject failure.
Yeah, just because they didn't win the football game, it was unsuccessful. But as you said, Kyle Emanuel is a monster at defensive end for North Dakota State. When he was not tackling Sumner, one of the things Sumner did see very well was a touchdown pass to Jake Wieneke late in the first half.
Yeah, absolutely. They were down 6-3. It was a game of field goals, a minute 25 in the first half. Then on a 3rd and 2, they do that delayed draw to Zenner, and he rumbles 34 yards, and you're thinking, okay, they have some momentum. And then Sumner takes the home run shot on the very next play, and it goes to Jake Wieneke. A huge momentum swing. They go up 10-6 at halftime, and there were boos coming from that Bison crowd because they chose to run out the clock and enter the locker room down 10-6 at halftime. But a great throw by Austin, a great catch by Wieneke. That's one of those throws that you see that makes you think, okay, maybe Sumner's sort of starting to regain things a little bit. Maybe he's starting to get used to the quarterback position again.
Well, there was never anything wrong with his arm. I mean, his arm is as good as ever.
Yeah, exactly. It was his foot, but he moved around well, and he made that big play, and the Jacks did have momentum going into halftime.
And there were a few heads shaken at the Fargodome as North Dakota State was behind for the first time this year at the half. Even in that Western Illinois game, they were tied at halftime. Western Illinois led it in the second half, but this is kind of how North Dakota State does it. Not great in the first quarter, okay in the first half, and then they just take over in the second half, and they did it on the ground in the second half.
Yeah, Crockett, Frazier, and quarterback Carson Wentz. He had a career-high rushing yards. He had over 100 rushing yards, and it's like you said, this is what North Dakota State does. They didn't really hit any huge, big, explosive plays that just got the crowd riled up. They had long, sustained drives. They had 6-minute-plus drives that took, like I said, 6 minutes off the clock, 80-plus yards, and South Dakota State just could not stop them on 3rd down and short, 4th and short. They kept getting 4- or 5-yard chunks at a time and just methodically drove down the field.
Still, Jackrabbits had a shot. It was 20-17 early in the 4th quarter. South Dakota State had a great drive of its own, went right down and got Zenner in the end zone to make it 20-17.
Yep, but then after that, another long NDSU drive that made it 27-17. But yeah, credit the Jacks. The final score 37-17 to me isn't indicative of how the game went. They got their last 10 points on turnovers in their own end zone, or own red zone rather. So short, easy fields for the Bison toward the end of the game. But like you said, it was a 3-point game halfway through the 4th quarter, and if the Jacks make one more stop, it could be a completely different ball game.
Didn't play perfect. 33 wins in a row for North Dakota State now, and the Jacks, Zach Zenner, 96 yards and a touchdown, and probably maybe his final go-around against North Dakota State. The Jacks do still have a chance now if they can win these next 3 games. They play at Indiana State, they get Western Illinois at home, then they get South Dakota at home. They can get to 8-4 on the season. Stig is having none of it. He's talking one play at a time right now, but look ahead a little bit to where the Jacks can end up.
Yeah, we have the luxury of being able to look ahead. We don't have to go one play at a time. We're just media people. But yeah, it's sort of the same scenario as last year when they were 4-4 and they had to run the table to make the playoffs. Same scenario this year. They're 5-4 now. They have to win these next 3 games to even have a shot. Indiana State on Saturday will be the toughest test. They're a much improved team. They're the best on the schedule of the 3 remaining teams the Jacks have to face. A completely different team. They're going to Terre Haute to play them. This will be the marker to determine if the Jacks make the playoffs or not. If they can get to 8-4, which I think they can if they beat Indiana State, then they may have to get a little bit of help to be one of those teams from the Valley to get into the playoffs. But they do have to win out.
All right. Pretty sure Sumner is going to play at quarterback. Not sure about any other position, really, because they've got so many injuries.
Yep, Winnicke got hurt. He didn't play in the second half of the NDSU game. Schneider, people thought he was going to be out for 2 weeks. He had knee surgery apparently on Monday and came back and still played in the NDSU game. They're beat up on the offensive line. Their fullbacks hurt. They got D linemen out. It's just a war of attrition. And the trenches haven't exactly been the greatest for the Jacks recently. They haven't gotten any sacks the past 2 games. They've given up double digits over the past 3 games. So it's they need to sort of shore things up if they're going to have any chance of making the playoffs.
All right, we'll see what they do at Indiana State coming up this Saturday. That is it for SDSU-Tube.